Welcome to the section on building your first AWS Lambda function. In this section, we will introduce you to the application that we'll be creating. We will then run through the process of setting up the application. Next, we'll then move on to creating two S3 buckets using the CLI tool and the Eclipse plugin. We'll then run through the application and explain the project dependencies, plugins, and also the Lambda function handler. Next, we will build, deploy, and test that base application. After that, we will then build the rest of the application logic that interacts with the S3 buckets and resizes the image. And then finally, we will show you how to test the application from a unit testing perspective and also the AWS Lambda console. Welcome to this video where we'll be creating the AWS Lambda project that will resize images from S3 uploads. In this video, we will provide an overview of the image resizing application and how it works. We'll then walk through creating the application using Eclipse and the AWS plugin, and then we'll run through the generated code, explain a little bit about what it's doing, and run the unit test. So in our application, we'll be implementing the backend service that is responsible for resizing an image when a user uploads it. So let's say, for example, that a user is signing up to a website and they need to provide a profile image, and this can be a high-resolution image that doesn't need to be that detailed for a small thumbnail that would be provided on the site. We can do this image resizing on the server and store that resized image for use later on. In this example, we will provide a serverless application that meets this requirement. So, the user will be uploading the image into the site, and that will store that image in the S3 bucket. This bucket has then been configured to fire an event to AWS Lambda to do something with this image. That then triggers the AWS Lambda function to resize the image. And that resized image is then stored in a second destination S3 bucket. So let's get started with building your first Lambda function then. So you should have Eclipse open and you should already have the AWS plugin installed. And you'll know whether you have this installed because you should see this icon in the toolbar, which is the AWS Toolkit for Eclipse. If you click on the drop down, you'll see a number of different menu options here. And what we're going to select is New AWS Lambda Java Project. This will provide you with a simple dialog to enter the information that you require in order to create this project. So we're going to call this Project Image Resizer. So next we have the Maven settings for the project. Maven is one of the main build systems in Java, and this wizard will be creating a Maven project and using Maven dependency management to pull in all of the dependencies required to implement your AWS Lambda project. In Maven, the project requires three fields to describe the project: a group ID that is like a package name in Java, that uniquely identifies and qualifies the project, and its artifact name, which is effectively the name of the project or dependency itself. Then finally, you need to provide a version. So we need to give it a sensible group name or group ID, which is used in the Maven project. For the artifact ID image resizer, it's going to be version 1. We'll stick with the same package name. Let's keep with the default class name just to keep things simple. There's a drop down here, which is the input type, and what this basically is a list of all of the different events that your Lambda function could possibly receive. So you have custom S3, DynamoDB, etc. So these are all the different types of applications that can interact with your Lambda function. We'll be creating a Lambda function that is going to be acting on S3 events, so we just select that S3 event. And then you can see below here that there's some boilerplate code which has been generated for you to get you started. And we just click Finish. That'll go away, generate that project for you. We've got a problem here already in terms of the project which is actually generated, and this is down to the POM file of the project. So what we're going to do is just actually change the version of the POM file such that it's compatible with the generated code. Change this to 1.1.1 18, I think works. Save that, should rebuild, download the dependencies, and we can see now that this is no longer red. So jumping back to the README file, which has been generated for us as well. So this will provide us with a bit more information about the actual project that's been created here. So it talks about the handler class that's been generated for you. It has a handle request method, which is the entry point for the Lambda function, and we'll look through that in more detail later on. And then also it's generated a unit test for you as well to get you started. And it's also quite nice because it's actually created the S3 event in terms of a JSON object would be sent to your Lambda function in the real live system. So you can actually test all of your code from a unit test TDD approach as well, all within your environment before you even need to deploy anything to AWS. There's also some other information about uploading your function and how to invoke it. We'll run through those steps in future videos. So what we can do now is just move over to the test section. So we'll open Lambda function handler test, and this is the unit test that's been auto-generated for you. And all we're going to do now is just prove that everything is running and working, and we'll just run this test. All this test is effectively doing is taking the JSON object, passing that through your Lambda function, and there's an assert here to verify that the content type is correctly coming through as image/JPEG. And as we can see here, the unit test is completed.